I got a call a month before Elimination Chamber. I get a call from Ari Emanuel, who we know owns TKO. TKO owns WWE. He's been my longtime business partner, and he said, we need help at Elimination Chamber. Ticket sales are a little slow.
Which is just one of the many things that has everyone up in flames about this interview. Because why would you say that? And better yet, stop this whole, well, this is the TKO board member DJ talking, this isn't the final boss. Either commit to being in a storyline or stay in the boardroom, seriously.
Speaking as DJ, as Rock, director of the board. And not final boss.
Having The Rock involved in this story and having him as the clear catalyst for Cena's heel turn, only to not have him at WrestleMania where the story reaches the climax, is completely ridiculous. And the frustration goes back even further because the entire booking of him has been weird. Whether it was showing up at Bad Blood to do a sign that had no meaning until the Elimination Chamber, or showing up on Raw and NXT just to be a completely different version of himself, dropping the storyline altogether, and then saying, just wait, The Rock is taking you on a journey. And then when you finally come back for the biggest heel turn ever, you actually end up meaning nothing to it because you were simply there to push tickets. What was the initial point of being at Bad Blood? What was it originally going to be if you weren't going to be at the chamber? And better yet, TKO, how about instead of bringing The Rock back, you make tickets a normal price for the consumer again? Why are ticket sales moving slow and the whole time it's because I have to sell my own soul to buy one? Well, then The Rock also said this.
So when it comes to giving me your soul, giving the final boss your soul, that is what you want, not what the final boss wants. And so what does the final boss get out of that? I get your soul for life. That's what the final boss gets out of that. No, so now,
I'll be honest, Rock, my expression is the same as Pat McAfee's. Rock also talks about the idea of eventually turning Cody heel by selling his soul.
So I was an advocate of that, not turning Cody heel soon. But eventually, down the line, I like the idea of that because Cody's a smart guy, he's an intelligent guy, he's a ring general.
And Elimination Chamber was designed to be a bit of a litmus test to gauge the pulse on how people would respond to that. To which he says a lot of people want to see it.
It's transcendent beyond pro wrestling, and fans were loving it.
Which, I mean, I think eventually a heel Cody Rhodes could be interesting, but certainly not at Elimination Chamber and certainly not anytime soon. People love Cody. And the brief little booze that Cody got in that promo against Cena on the SmackDown before Mania aside, because those people just like to be different. And then he talks about a conversation he had with Triple H where Triple H basically said, what about John?
And Triple H said, you know, what about this? What about John turning? I said, I love it.
Then he says this too.
I did feel, and I made the call, I don't want to be involved in that. Step back. Let the final boss step back into the shadows. Let all the spotlight go to John. Let it go to Cody. Let's not make it about Cody's soul eventually or John's soul.
Let's not make it about Cody's soul or John's soul. You started it being about the soul. So finish it. What do you mean retreat to the shadows?
My name is the final boss and I am retreating back to the shadows.
And I called John after Elimination Chamber, spoke to him, called Cody, and I said, I think the final boss's work is done. We've established it. We just pulled off the greatest angle in the history of professional wrestling, other than Hulk Hogan turning heel back in the 90s. I said, this is amazing. We have 6 weeks. Now, let's build. You guys go and crush it, and I'll be right there with you, and I'm always here if you need me, but I think it's best for the final boss not to be involved in that finish.
So he decided to start the story, but he never finished it. Bro is not Cody Rhodes. Because again, John Cena turning heel was not the end of the story. It was either the beginning or the mid-season finale of Cody's reign at best. And if it's a mid-season finale, it's a big moment, but we still got more to come. In no way, shape, or form was it the ending.
I would have finessed things a little differently on how they got there, but that's just me creatively. It's not soul right now. Right now, it's not. But by the way, we'll go back to it.
We'll still got it. Yeah.
He says right now it's not about the soul, but Rock, wasn't that literally the original plot point? Isn't that the headline of this story?
My brother, I don't want that. I want your soul.
He also mentions that him being at WrestleMania would have led people to thinking there was going to be more to the story, and considering he has other commitments, he wouldn't have been around for all of it. To which I would go ahead and argue, wouldn't that have been a perfect way to send John Cena off to ruin wrestling if you were there for the climax at WrestleMania? Because WrestleMania has always been seen as a bit of a season finale anyway. They say it all the time, but Mania is like the wrestling season finale, both in ending stories and setting up ones for the next season. What better way to put a cap on the story than to end it by being there with Travis Scott? You recreate what you did at the Chamber, and then that's it. You can come back later in the year, but the importance of you being there since you initiated it is part of what I feel like he is missing. Which is very ironic because he also says this.
I like to think that I keep not only my finger on the pulse of things, you and I have talked about this, don't keep your finger on the pulse, put your whole hand on the pulse of things.
I don't know whose pulse your finger is on, but whoever that person is, they're dead. Rock also went ahead and said that another top guy who he calls Superman said his soul was for sale too. Most people have assumed that it was either Drew McIntyre or Seth Rollins.
Who are these top guys who are saying, you know, one in particular who I love is my guy. I call him the Superman of the company. He's like, listen, my soul's for sale when it's time. And I said, I love it. Let's do it. So
most people have assumed he's either talking about Drew McIntyre or Seth Rollins, but he does actually refer to Seth as the Superman earlier in the interview.
Seth is always delivers. He's our Superman. I love that guy. I connected with him after the show. He's just phenomenal. You could count on him around every corner.
Rock also talks about why Travis Scott was there and the fact that Travis is actually training for a match. Which, of course, by now most of us have heard about the rumors of Travis Scott training for a wrestling match.
Because he loves wrestling. He's a huge fan and he respects it. He's working his ass off. I know that he has plans to train with Booker T. I don't know if it's happening already. It might be. Not quite too sure there on his schedule, but he loves the business.
But the idea of one of John Cena's final 27 dates being a celebrity tag match, what happened to the game I love? Maybe Cena's really doing it. He is ruining professional wrestling. One positive of this interview, though, is how Rock gave Braun Breaker his props.
Braun's been put in these positions, man, where he has really risen to the occasion. I'm not surprised. He looks like $1 million. He's believable. He's legitimate. And he comes from a hell of a bloodline in the Steiner family, which, as we know. So I was happy to see that last night. Happy to see the way it went down.
He also had this to say about Roman Reigns and his part-time schedule.
People calling him a part-timer really fuels the fire in him to show you, man, I'm a lot of things. And you want to call me a part-timer, but the company is still on my back. And now watch what I do.
I think it's fairly obvious that Roman is winding down his career. I appreciate any time I get to see my tribal chief on TV because I'm well aware this isn't going to last forever. And for as much as I understand that people want to see stars like Roman Reigns showing up every week like they used to, I'm also of the hot take and of the controversial opinion that I don't really mind that he's a part-timer anymore. The roster across the entire WWE is so stacked that I'd rather focus on that than dwelling on a guy that isn't showing up every week. Eventually they conclude the wrestling segment and ask The Rock about other stuff. One thing that I don't love about him going on the Pat McAfee show to say all of this is that Pat was never going to push him for answers. He was never going to push The Rock and say, okay, but why? Why would you do that? Do you see why that wasn't the best decision? But I get it, it's the safe play. I like Pat, I like the show, I still like The Rock. Obviously, he's a company guy though, so he's never going to challenge The Rock on these things or else he's fired, to be honest. And while I do understand that when it comes to the part that The Rock is playing in John Cena's retirement run and with Cody selling his soul, The Rock will be back eventually and we'll get more layers to this story. And I understand that John Cena's retirement tour still has 27 dates left. He's still got a ton of time here. There's a lot that's going to happen. It's going to be cinema. It's going to be great. I'm excited. But I can't help but finding myself a little frustrated at the situation. You either commit to telling the story, which started around selling his soul, and you take the people on a ride just as you did so well at WrestleMania 40. A story, by the way, which should conclude with you being there since you started it. Because it's not like this story with The Rock started with someone else and then The Rock came in. No, when it comes to throwing up the 3 at Bad Blood or throwing up, you know, the Cena sign and then the slit throw and the Cena heel turn, you are an essential part of that story. You're the one that in visual, you are the one that corrupted John Cena, okay? You are he looked right at you. He literally looks at you and then said, boom, that you were a part of that. It's not as if you weren't a part of it. It's not really a situation where The Rock can go ahead and say, oh, well, my job's done here. I started this fire, now go deal with it.
And you know, The Rock has been having great workouts in this belt that says Cody Soul. But right here, you know this date. This is the date that your daddy died. And this is the date that broke my heart. because your daddy was one of my heroes.
And overall, if you're gonna go ahead and do that, then just don't have The Rock be involved. Don't take the people on a ride that you have no intention of being a part of the finish. I think the only justification I can think of is that they're planting the seeds for Cody selling his soul so incredibly early, and Bad Blood was a very, very early foreshadowing of that. Meaning that all the hints and seeds of Cody turning heel a couple years from now were intentional. While Cena turning heel and The Rock being there was to demonstrate the control that the final boss has over the company and storyline, but also sell tickets. It's the only way I can try to wrap my head around it, but even still it doesn't entirely make sense.